Hey everyone, welcome to the live stream after a phenomenal day of stock appreciation. It is Wednesday, the day after the election, and the stock market, for a variety of reasons, just rallied. It was an incredible rally. I hope that everybody made a lot of money today. We really saw some stocks really climb, which was incredible. I'll go over some of the highlights that I saw, a couple that I own that did really, really well. And there were some earnings, believe it or not. The election is the biggest story of the day, but we certainly had some positive earnings also announced. We also had some earnings after the market closed, and I'll go over companies like Qualcomm that announced after the earnings were made, or after the stock market closed, excuse me. Shadow Guy, I'm glad to be wrong about the election uncertainty. Let's make some money. I'm right there with you. If I'm wrong and I make a lot of money, oh well. The money will spend the same whether I got it exactly right or a little bit wrong. Um, it's great to be an owner of assets, stocks, real estate, cryptocurrencies, because owners of assets are really going to do well going forward. Just a high level, I've heard bits and pieces as I've listened to news throughout the day of what's expected for the next 4 years here in the US under a Donald Trump leadership. He has a playbook that's expected, which is that asset prices will appreciate, and interest rates, they were already on their way down. Interest rates should be lower. So there's going to be a lot of effort to grow the economy. I think tariffs are interesting. I think they're going to be used. I don't know how. It's a little premature to know what it's going to do and who it's going to affect. But in general, it is the important takeaway for me, and what I would share with my two sons who are young men, is you want to own assets, because as we see another wave of asset appreciation, you'll see stocks go up in value, real estate go up in value, cryptocurrencies, businesses, just across the board, assets will go up. And these are appreciating assets. I wouldn't confuse them with, most cars are not appreciating assets, they're depreciating assets. They depreciate each year. So I wouldn't confuse the two. I'm talking about real estate, stocks, bonds, not so much. Bonds will not appreciate a whole lot. They just pay you a good income. Cryptocurrencies, Bitcoin had a phenomenal day today. It got to its all-time high, and Coinbase had a phenomenal day today. So I'll go over Coinbase and share that with you. But in general, I think for the next couple of years, I expect the stock market's going to do well. And that might cause other economic stresses for the country, but that's not how I invest. I don't invest based on economic theory and the whole macro stuff. No, I'm trying to buy great companies, trying to own them for a long time. And I'm trying to create them as much wealth as possible for myself and for my family. That's it. And I pick stocks that I think are great companies. I buy them at the right time when I think they're discounted. I buy over time to increase my ownership in that business if I really like it, like Facebook or Meta. And that's where I'm going. Elections, I've made money with Republican presidents, Democratic presidents. I've made money. So the decision's been made, or the election's been completed. The voters have made a decision. And in my mind, I've already turned the page, and I'm trying to figure out how could I make my portfolio work in 2025. For the current year, the year, it's easy for for just about anybody to make money this year. Um, I'm having a very, very good year. This year right now is looking better than 2023. And 2023 is a very good year. So this year is looking phenomenal. A lot of really good wins. I'm carrying a tax burden now because I cashed out some of my positions, and that's a quality problem. I'm not complaining. I'm just saying I've made a lot of gains. I've recognized a few, and in general, it's been a really, really good year. I've learned a lot. I mean, it's just been a really good year. And now that we have this election over, and a decision has been made, the Democratic nominee called the Republican winner and conceded. Everything's being transferred over peacefully. Great, good. Now we're going to wait and see if the Republicans are going to control the White House. They are going to control the Senate, and it looks like they may control the House, the Congress. If they have all three, look out. You really want to own assets, because I think asset prices are going to fly through the roof if they own all three, because I think they're going to, and this is just more of an observation. I'm not making a judgment call here, or I should say I'm not being critical of anybody, but if they own all three houses, they're going to do things like lower taxes and maybe go into greater deficits. I mean, that benefits people who make money, and I'm not going to complain about it. I'm just going to notice that, hey, maybe we're the deficit's going up a little bit higher, and things like that are probably going to happen. But let's wait and see. The voters have voted. Decisions have been made, and I respect every single one of them. We'll see what happens. Good luck to all the politicians that have been elected. I hope they do a great job for the sake of our country. And away we go. Shad Wick, how are you? Good evening. Good to see your name. I think it's the first time I've seen a comment from you. Thanks for joining. I appreciate it. All right. So the market just roared today. The Russell small and mid cap stocks up 5.84. Holy smokes. What a day. NASDAQ up almost 3%. S&P up 2.5%. The Dow up 3.5%. Such a great day. And yesterday was a good day. So back to back, just awesome days. Today, one of my stocks, Coinbase, had a super rally. It was up 30% today. It's not showing it. It's down 2.83 in after hours, but I think it shows it here. Yeah. It was up 31%. Why was Coinbase up so much? Well, there's a couple of theories out there, right? First, Bitcoin went up tremendously. Bitcoin hit its all-time high. And that caused a lot of buying into Bitcoin. And Bitcoin is an alternative asset class. That one thing is easy to understand is that if you have inflationary periods, Bitcoin is a very good asset because it's a scarce number of coins that have been mined and will be mined. So it's not like, the Federal Reserve can print far more money and put far more money into circulation, which is why, in a way, the US dollar, it has less purchasing power if you measure it by, hey, how many gallons of milk can I buy for my family, or a carton of eggs, or a gallon of gasoline, or, insurance and so forth. But Bitcoin continues to rise at a very, very fast rate. Bitcoin didn't exist 20 years ago. It's 16 years old. Sweet 16 for Bitcoin. And in that time, it went from being worthless to being worth about $74,000 per coin. Now, Coinbase came out and is the only publicly traded cryptocurrency brokerage on the market, publicly traded. There's other brokerages as well, but they're not publicly traded yet. The reason I put some of my coins in Coinbase and why I did a lot of my investing, especially early on Coinbase, was that I could see their financials. I could see more transparency in Coinbase. And I think a lot of investors felt the same way. Coinbase is also helping other institutions with their ETFs, since they have cryptocurrency ETFs around Bitcoin as well as Ethereum now. So things went really well for Coinbase. Their earnings were good. They just announced earnings not too long ago, and they had good earnings. They're growing really well, but now that we have an expected appreciation of assets and expected higher inflation going forward, expected a higher growth economy, the cryptocurrency industry and Coinbase are really going to flourish. It's already a $63 billion market cap company. They've been publicly traded for a couple of years. Looks like they IPO'd in 2021. So they've been around for 3 years, going on 4. They really came out with a lot of fanfare, but once we got to 2022, it sold off. Good time to buy was during this period here in 2022, of course. A lot of assets were good to buy back then. And it's really rallied ever since then. Over the 1 year, it's gone up 196%. Go Coinbase. And today was up 31%. So this was my number one performer from a percentage perspective. And really glad I have it. I carefully invest in crypto because it's not that old. It hasn't been around for a long time. And I don't want to get too far into it and then all of a sudden it collapses and I lose a good part of my portfolio. Nope, I don't want to do that. So I've had a measured, careful investing approach, but I invested starting in 2018. And I'm glad I did. It's been one of the best performing asset classes in my portfolio. So Coinbase had an awesome day and we'll see what's ahead. I know that President Trump is a big supporter of crypto, and then it's a double positive. The previous or the current administration that's going to leave office at the beginning of January gave the cryptocurrency industry a hard time. I think they were trying to put them into an old model, and they were trying to put regulation on crypto that resembles kind of other assets that have existed before. And the industry really clashed with Gensler. And it's pretty much a foregone conclusion that Gensler is out with Joe Biden leaving office. Gensler won't be there. And he was a big enemy of crypto based on behavior. I've seen videos of Gensler, and what's interesting is he's a really intelligent guy. And I was really impressed with a lot of the economic theories he has, and he's given presentations and so forth. He's a really bright guy, but for some reason he just was really skeptical of crypto. And an administration's coming into office where they're in on crypto. They're going to support it, and we'll see how far it goes. Shadow Guy. So Kraken IPO. Yeah, I would say that Kraken IPO may come around. The other thing that I expect with, a new administration is I think that there haven't been that many IPOs. There hasn't been a high amount of acquisitions. And I think it's because the current administration, they took Google Alphabet and said, hey, you're a monopoly and we have a problem with that. Well, I think Google Alphabet's troubles in that area have lessened quite a bit with this election. But in general, I think maybe some of the reluctance to acquire companies or IPO is that the environment with Democrats in office was not as friendly to really acquiring businesses and maybe IPOing. So we'll see what happens going forward. I think I'm glad we have the election. I'm glad it's over and we proceed forward. I am surprised how positive the market is, and that's great. I'll take it. For the rest of the year, it's anybody's guess what's going to happen. At this point, the year's been so good that if we just went sideways, I'd be super happy. If we gave up some gains, I'd be okay. If we have more gains, um, I'll take them. Get ready for 2025. So Coinbase was a big winner, and curious to see if anybody else owns Coinbase out there. So as mentioned, we had a number of companies, 375 of them announce earnings today. The biggest one being Novo Nordisk. And I took a peek at it. A lot of things looked interesting. So I wanted to do a full evaluation on that in the stream. So we're going to do that one from scratch. We'll do it step by step. We'll take a look at Qualcomm, take a look at ARM Holdings, and a couple of others, including CVS. I created a CVS video this morning. I released it on my channel so you can view that. I'll probably give CVS a light touch since I did create that video. And if you'd like to see it, it's on my channel. We'll take a look at AppLovin, which is a high rising stock. Just for fun, we're going to look at Energy Transfer because I'm pretty sure that did well today because with a Republican administration, oil companies are going to do well. So, all right. So Novo Nordisk is a pharmaceutical company, and they are one of the companies that has a weight loss drug. So weight loss drugs, obesity care has been really red hot. And I was really impressed with their financials. This company is $483 billion in market cap. They are at 273% return over the last 5 years. Over the 1 year, it's only up 7%. Isn't that interesting? And it had its stock peak was around $146 per share. It's down to $105. They announced before the market opened, I believe. Let me double check that to make sure I'm correct. Yeah, before the market opened. And to my amazement, frankly, on a day when stocks were up so much, this stock was down 4.33. It might be that, there's going to be high demand for their obesity drugs, but is it expected that, Republicans aren't going to fund a lot of healthcare, especially government funded healthcare? So maybe that has something to do with the losses on Novo Nordisk. So let's take a look at their fundamentals. So this is a $483 billion market cap company. Revenue is $37 billion. And this is all USD. Yes, USD. Dividend is a little small because their stock price is pretty high. Analysts think it's a strong buy, discounted 32%. Okay, so let's take a tour of the fundamentals, and then I'm going to get into a valuation for this company on my model within Google Sheets. So the growth of the company is excellent. It grew 25% in 2022, 31% in 2023, 26% in the trailing 12 months. Very good. Since they've already loaded September's numbers, the most recent quarter being September 30th. You can see they grew 21% in the most recent quarter. That's good growth, but it is a little bit lower than Q2. Every quarter is green on the screen. Looks good. And this is in DKK. So what is the DKK currency? I think we looked at that recently. Let me take a quick glance at what the conversion looks like. So this is a Danish krone or krone, and it's 14 cents on the dollar. Okay, that'll be important because we're going to need to translate these numbers to US dollars. All right, so the growth looks really good. This is in the Danish krone, so we can't 0.1471. were in the neighborhood of about $10 billion in that quarter. Okay, so I like the revenue growth, good revenue growth. They're in the space that's really red hot right now with the weight loss drugs. So that looks good. I looked at the balance sheet. They have more cash than they do debt. So that's good. Now let's take a look at cash. Because if you guys have watched my videos, you know cash is where my valuations come from. So these guys are doing, in the trailing 12 months, 77 billion 748 million Danish krone. So I need to multiply that times 0.14. That'll be my free cash flow in the Danish krone. Okay, so I have that, and balance sheet items, I have those here. I can take a look at those. You have cash and cash equivalents of 74 billion 881 million in the Danish krone currency. When we look at total debt, 56 billion 972 million Danish krones. Okay. All right, so let's take a look at my model here. I've got the model started. I need to fill it out, from start to finish. So let's get into it. All right, so to begin with, free cash flows. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at the trailing 12 months, and there hasn't been a lot of growth in their free cash flow. When you look at their free cash flow, it's been excellent, but it actually has been going down a little bit. You see, it went 66, 83, and then it's dipped a little bit in the trailing 12 months. The growth between 21 and 22 is excellent. Between 22 and 23 is excellent. So I am going to just grow it by about 5% in the short term and then 4% in the long term. So the short term, I'm going to grow it by 5%, long term, 4%. It has a good balance sheet, so 8% is fine. So we said that number, I need to convert it from Danish krones. So that loads the free cash flow for the trailing 12 months, grows it by 5%, and we get an intrinsic value of $261 billion of intrinsic value. And they have cash on the balance sheet, so I'm going to convert that. They have debt. So this company has a fairly high market cap. Market cap is $483 billion. And shares outstanding are 4,460 million shares outstanding. So the value per share I have is 59. Stock is trading for $105. So I'm seeing that unless they can start growing cash flow, like if they can grow at 10%, potentially it really brings down it really brings up the value, but I need to keep it at 5% for a couple of reasons. One is they're showing that they're plateauing. Maybe the market's selling off the stock for that reason. Second, other pharmaceutical companies are entering the space for weight loss and the whole obesity drug, game. And I think that competition is going to limit growth. not necessarily stop the growth for Novo Nordisk, but I could see them really slowing down. Having said that, and maybe I will move it to like 10% since the revenue growth rate is really good. So I am going to move it to 10%. Now let's take a look at the earnings per share that the company has. Analysts think it's discounted by 32%. And the earnings per share that's expected for 2025 is $28.92. Is that in US dollar? Yeah, that's in US dollar. So this is a growing business. So I'll go with 24. Now something went wrong. Is this camp? Yeah. Okay. Got it. It's not in dollars. All right. So it's $4.04 per share. And this is a growing business. It's in a really good sector. So I got to, give them that respect. Grow it by 10%. So yeah, based on earnings per share, I see the stock being discounted by 27%. Analysts believe it's discounted by 32%. So I'm not far from where analysts have a consensus, but that free cash flow is not floating my boat. It should be much higher. And these growth rates don't apply. This was from Pfizer. So this one here is a pass for me. I'd have to investigate their growth and see if I think their free cash flow is going to continue to grow at a faster rate or if they've plateaued. If they have plateaued, I think, the stock has basically hit its maximum stock price. Maybe that's what the market was selling off today. So interesting company. They've had a lot of success. It's really expensive. And for me, it's a pass on Novo Nordisk. Any questions on this stock? Boy, a lot of comments. Thanks everybody for showing up. I guess a really strong rally makes people more active. Looks like Shadow Guy, you're also in coin. Congratulations. So by the way, the new administration will have a direct connection to Palantir. Interesting. Cool. Very interesting. Anyone bought BWLP? Not me. You made good profits, Omar, on Citi. I did as well. Citi was up about 9%. So that was a good winner. There was a lot of winners today. And the other big winner for me, I'll mention a little later, was Robinhood. It did really well. So we'll go over that one. So Novo Nordisk was down a bit. It was a little bit of a surprise. It has been a really successful company, but it is done. Hey, I'm glad you like the yellow sign. I appreciate it, Ben. And I haven't seen you on live stream. Thanks for joining. I appreciate you joining. I appreciate your support of the channel, by the way. All right. So we got one down. I don't know, about 10 to go. But it's fun. It's fun to review stocks when things are really, really rosy, right? So we went over to Novo Nordisk. Let's take a look at Energy Transfer really quick. So here's what's interesting is I mentioned this yesterday that if a Republican wins, energy companies tend to get a bump, and oil prices actually dropped, but oil stocks went up. And usually they kind of follow each other. But what I think was expected was, well, with this new administration, drilling and extracting oil is going to be easier, less regulation, easier for these oil companies to do that. So they expect oil prices would be lower. And at the same time, lower regulation means lower cost to these companies. So stock prices went up. So that was a nice surprise. Energy Transfer announced today, and their stock went up, and it's also rallying in the after hours. I mean, not a strong rally in the after hours, but a pretty good one. And Energy Transfer is, I believe they own pipelines for gas pipelines, this is a really solid investment. And I've looked at it a number of times, and this is a solid investment. It's 7.4% dividend. Very good. And oil had been sold off, but not Energy Transfer. Look at that. It's had a beautiful upward chart. And over the 5 years, not a bad return if you consider 37%. If you're getting paid 7% a year over 5 years, that's compounded about 40%. You would add to that 37%. So Energy Transfer has been really rewarding investors of their stock. So Energy Transfer having a very good day. And I think oil is going to be a good place to be for 2025. With this new administration, I think it's going to just make it easier for these oil companies to do a lot more drilling, extracting. The U.S. will probably buy more of its oil domestically. And believe it or not, the U.S. exports oil. So we could export oil to China and other places. So looks like, Brad, you're an Energy Transfer holder. Very good. Well, you had a good day, and they pay you a nice dividend. So congratulations on that. Let's take a peek at their earnings report. Let's see. I think this one's good. Business Wire does a nice job. They pretty much take the company's earnings data and put it out there. They don't over summarize. So crude oil transports volumes were up 25%. Okay, good. Let me see if they provided. There we go. That's what we like seeing is financial statements. Okay, revenues. In the quarter, revenues are flat because oil prices are down. But these guys, they're moving the oil or the energy, the natural gas. So it's not like they're having to reduce their revenues when oil prices are down. They charge a fee to move this energy. For the quarter, it was flat, but for the 9 months, bringing it year to date, they're actually up about 5 billion. So that would be about 9% growth on that 2023 number. So that looks really good. Operating income looks good. It's nice and consistent with last year. Made money, good and profitable. Cash flow wise, cash flow is expanding, looks good. And I would say that, based on the year to date number, they're going to cash flow about 15 billion for the year. 15 billion from operations. And then what's their CapEx? Let's take a look. So their CapEx is 785 million, not too much, not much at all. So this is a really, really good winner. So let's say we're at 15 billion, of, so 15 billion in free cash flow. You could easily say this stock is discounted because they just generate a lot of free cash flow. So not a bad idea as we see the energy sector really have some tailwinds with this new administration. So Energy Transfer, Occidental, other companies that are in the oil complex. So congratulations, Brad, on Energy Transfer. All right. So Energy Transfer was out there. Let's move on to, we went over Coinbase. So CVS, just briefly, this is a turnaround story, and the market did like what they saw. I did like the revenue line. It grew really nicely. They're repairing the business, and this stock really has a lot of value that I think is going to be recognized at some point. I would not be surprised if CVS doubles in value in the next 2 to 3 years, because their business has just been growing year after year. Their stock price has been dropping for 3 years or 2 years, but their revenue continues to expand. And it's almost amazing that a company could be expanding their revenue, but their stock price continues to go down. But I think they've repaired their business and should be doing better. Looks like Trader Prad is in. Man, Trader Prad, how come you didn't tell me we were going to have this type of day? I watched your stream for a little bit yesterday. Excellent work, my man. Yesterday was interesting, but today, holy smokes. I'm going to tune into your live stream at 8 p.m. Eastern because I want to hear your opening comments. I'm just really happy that it went up super high. I could probably repeat some of the things I heard of the reasons why it rallied so much, but boy, I could get used to this. I could get used to these stock prices rising like this. It was a pretty fun day. So CVS had a good day, very good day. And I think if they continue on this path, they have a new CEO. I thought that was a really good idea. Hey, let's get somebody new in there that can, just have a fresh start. And the company is not maybe sticking to some ideas that are not working. So I'm really glad that that we have a new CEO. I've started buying into CVS recently. It's really begun to take off. Of course, my good friend Shadow Guy is going to say, you should have lump sum bought, man. But I'm in at like 15,000. I'm willing to go like to 30 or 40,000 investment in CVS. Maybe I should have listened to Shadow Guy, but at least I bought into CVS. What the heck? And CVS, I think, is going to run well. We'll see. All right. One stock that I haven't really looked at, Qualcomm, but it is a stock that I felt this is the one semiconductor stock that I want to buy into. And I've been buying into it for a couple months. And it did really well in the after hours as well as in today's trading. Now, this stock here, $192 billion company, $37 billion in revenue. The things that I like about Qualcomm, their revenue is growing. So you have revenue growth. They had a lean 2023, and this is the semiconductor industry. It's cyclical. It goes up and down. But when we look at the quarterly, look at this growth, accelerating growth. That's what I began to see in Qualcomm, and I started to buy into it. Now I'm a little afraid of semiconductor because I've invested in semiconductor. I've made money on semiconductor. I just think it's a really expensive space. This is the one stock that I thought, hey, this stock isn't overpriced. And this stock has also had some really interesting pricing over the last year. It really rose nicely. I was a stockholder. I sold somewhere around here. It collapsed. I started to buy again. It's been going sideways for the most part. And I've been trying to buy in these low periods and not listening to my friend Shadow Guy and lump sum buying, just trying to buy at advantageous periods. And it's been working well. I've been building a position and will continue to build a position in Qualcomm. It's up 6% in the after hours trading. So what they announced is probably quite favorable, starting with the revenue growth. You have 18.69% revenue growth. Very good on a pretty big number of $10 billion in the quarter. That's $40 billion a year. Very good. Let's take a peek at their cash flow. That is where the value in my model comes out of. When we look at cash flow, got this thing set for the quarterly. Now I want to look at the annual. So let me click that button, come down to cash flow. And this is a beautiful thing when a company just generates cash and cash and cash and more cash and more cash and more cash. You just stack it one on top of the other. And we're at $11 billion in the trailing 12 months. That's really good cash. You can see that over time it's grown. At one time it was 3 billion, but we're up to 11 billion. That's very good. Stock like this, I could easily multiply that number times 25 to even 30 since they are growing now. And that gets me to like 250 billion in market cap. When I look at the valuation I have for Qualcomm, I haven't updated it. So maybe we can update it together here. And I know I see a lot of comments coming through, and I really appreciate that. I'm going to catch up to them, but I just want to kind of keep my stream of thought here. That way I don't kind of bounce around too much. And I'm going to get to your comments. Thanks so much for tuning in. It's a fun day. It's a fun day to be a stock investor for sure. This is like Christmas. Santa Claus came with all the presents and we get to open them all, which is our stocks. All right. So my free cash flow number, not too far off. We're at about 11 billion. And the valuation that I have in this stock updates automatically. It doesn't take into account after hours numbers, but I have a 20% discount on a quality company that I continue to dollar cost average into. So I'm good with my investment in Qualcomm. And I could probably lower the interest rate that I'm going to discount these by, because interest rates are going to fall. What's also weird about today is interest rates rose a lot. And I did buy more bonds, my ETF, my bond ETF, intermediate bonds, which was a part of my bond portfolio that I didn't have a lot in. So that's where I'm building. I'm building where I have maybe some missing bricks out of that bond wall. And was glad to see bond prices go down. I bought early in the day and then they rose, which was cool. So Qualcomm's just been a good stock, man. And I think it's a good quality stock that can rise again, maybe return a nice 20 to 30% return in 2025. So Qualcomm having a very good after hours session. I'll finish up like details on my numbers later, but I think it gets us in the general approximate of my valuation of this stock. Analysts think like me. I said 20. These guys are saying 17 is the discount on Qualcomm. You know, it's a good, reliable stock. They're headquartered down in San Diego. Their chips end up in the smartphones, specifically the Android devices, and Microsoft's using their Snapdragon chip in the Microsoft AI laptops that they're putting out. So really nice growth on EPS for 25 and 26. It may go down a bit in 27, but overall, just I see good times coming for Qualcomm. And it's not, you know, this crazy PE, 19 PE. What's in NVIDIA is not too crazy, but you look at Broadcom, that's a little bit insane. Let me see if I can open up another browser. So I owned Broadcom, sold it, and their PE this year is 163. Holy smokes. That's like really nuts. And if you look at NVIDIA, it's at 68 this year. So you look at 68, 100 and some odd PE, 19, and they're growing. Whoa, hey, that looks really good. So that's why I started buying Qualcomm. All right, so that was Qualcomm. Let me catch up to comments. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining. Really coming with an intent to be involved. So Brad, I think I caught up with you. Looks like you're asking Shadow Guy a question. Shadow Guy's got good game. He's got good advice, good comments. Mike, how are you, sir? So Nike went down because it's tied to, yeah, I agree with you 100%. It's expected, you know, most of the Nike shoes are made in China, and it's not a big surprise that the US China, you know, conflict will be there. It might be a little, you know, if you raise tariffs on my products, I'm going to raise tariffs on your products. And the tariffs that we would raise on China might directly affect the price of a pair of Nikes. And Nike produces those shoes in China. So when they come over, maybe $100 pair of shoes, if it has a tariff, I don't know, about 20%, you'd automatically have to pay, you know, 20% more for those Nikes, which could affect Nike sales. Now, the one thing I would say is, all the shoe athletic footwear companies are located, they manufacture in the same area. It's not like Nike's the only one in China and Adidas is not. No, Adidas is in the same place. And all the smaller shoe companies, same thing. So they're all in the same boat. So we'll see how things play out. I bought more Nike today. I saw it as an opportunity to buy more Nike. And I know that things may slow down for Nike, but I think Nike is a rebound story for me. And I think if they could just get back to, who they are, the dominant athletic footwear company, 60% of their business is athletic footwear, 30% apparel, then 10% other stuff, accessories and equipment and stuff. I think Nike's going to be fine. It's going to be a very, very good stock for me. Yeah. So 4 more years of a great market. I'm all for it. All right. So Mike Dividend Investor guys, small and mid caps did awesome today. And small mid caps have been beginning to work. And I think for sure today they exceeded the S&P. If they keep at it, I think at some point they're going to outperform the S&P and the NASDAQ. But they had been behind for like a year and a half. So it's about time they start to work. So we have a Fed announcement tomorrow, and it's expected they're going to announce a 0.25 or 25 basis point reduction to the borrowing rate. That's expected. If they do that, I don't know what the market's going to do. If it's flat, maybe it might be flat. If they don't lower interest rates, that might be a reason to sell off a bit because it's going to confuse the market. Market's already priced in that, 25 basis point reduction. So if that happens, I don't know that it's much news. It's like, okay, everybody expected it. All right. Good chatter on the chat. Fallsgrave. Hey, good to see you, man. Very good to see you. Thanks for joining. I liked the rally today. I loved it. I had an ear-to-ear smile, and then I hit the gym because I'm like, man, just keep going, rally, or just stay where you're at. And then I came back, boom, higher, and it just did really well. And these booms, it's interesting, but we're already on a really good market this year. If you let's look at the NASDAQ. I mean, this is a good market. We're up 28%. We had really good periods. Look at this, the steepness of this appreciation, especially coming out of the spring into the summer. Just that appreciation was awesome. We went up just in less than 3 months, we went up 22%. And today, we've had, some months where it wasn't really cranking. It was kind of just getting it done, up 3.3%. But today, whoa, look out. We might get back into one of these trends and see an appreciation maybe for the remainder of the year of, plus 10%, plus 20% in the next 2 months. And that will be fun to ride for sure. So let's keep our fingers crossed and see what happens. So Mike, the dividend investor guy. So I sold Elevance to harvest some losses there. I'm going to have to pay some tax on some gains. So that was the intent there. But I had been buying CVS and Cigna almost in parallel. You kind of sell one and buy the other. And Cigna's doing okay. And CVS doing great. So that was my intent there. Yeah, and Humana, did Humana really rally today? I think I saw that in Discord. Yeah, it's been doing really well. Look at that. Very good. Up 20% in 1 month. It's still down, but I think the story has changed. And I like what this guy on Discord, I forgot his handle, but he has his finger on healthcare insurance payers. And he said that the administration change is what is going to change the situation for the better with Humana. And I think he's been kind of nailing this other stock quite well in healthcare. I think he really has a lot of good comments. I think healthcare is going to be a mixed bag. There's going to be some winners, there's going to be some losers, as there always is. I think if healthcare companies are really tied to a lot of government programs where they're providing healthcare, to people basically at no expense, those programs may go away, and then just the core healthcare uh, businesses are going to continue on. Humana, I'm not quite that close to this one here. They specialize in specialty insurance in Medi-Cal. Okay. Medi-Cal and specialty insurances and so forth. I would say that I could see that health insurance is maybe going to go up a bit because people will want to have extra insurance to make sure that they get what they want out of their health care. But I think with this new administration, Humana is a good stock to take a look at. Maybe just kind of review healthcare in general. I did see my small caps like United Therapeutics did really well today, and so did Catalyst. But Pfizer was beaten down. Clove is that stock that had been doing really well, and it went down today. Clove was having like a really, really good year, right? 290, yeah, 299. But it's selling off in after hours. So 299 minus 13, you're still up 286. It's having a great year. It's a tiny cap, right? 2 billion. And it is selling off the after hours. And this is a stock that's one of the guys on Discord is in this stock. He's been doing great with it. Good for him. And we'll see what they announced. Let's take a quick peek. So what did the market not like with Clove? So Medicare Advantage Insure. So this is supplemental insurance. I guess when you retire, you qualify for Medicare, but you could buy supplemental insurance. Okay. So 9% revenue growth. They increased their full year guidance. All right. So total revenue is up 8%. Not a super impressive growth rate. Last year they lost 33 million from operations, and this year they lost less. So that was good news. Okay. This is not a stock that I've ever analyzed. It is a tiny cap. Let's take a look at more balance sheet items. Okay. Cash flows. Okay. So they had a big loss last year. And I think part of why the stock's done so well is it may have been left for dead, and it was so low priced that once it showed that, hey, no, we're going to stay in business, it really rallied. It did generate 129 million from operations. I guess 120 million from operations. Plant, property, equipment is really small, so 119 million for the first 9 months. So that's basically going to be about 160 million for the year if you annualize it. And this is a tough one because they're recovering, but it's kind of a recovery story. So 1.6, I mean, I don't know. I don't know that it's all that attractive. Analysts believe that it's already priced too expensively, and then the stock market's selling it off. It's done great for 1 year. You can see that it really just got sold off. It was a 82 cents, 70, 64 cents one time. That's why it's doing so well. So this is a high risk stock. And I think the appreciation it's seen is maybe what we're going to see total, but who knows? Maybe it'll keep going up. This one's just too risky for me. It's too small. It's had too many problems. That's probably why I never really considered it as an investment. And I'm not overly excited with, they're a supplementary insurance company on Medicare. It's like, okay, what's exciting about that? It didn't seem that exciting to me, but congratulations to that one stockholder that owned this stock and has made a lot of money on it. Okay, so that was Clove. Thanks for bringing that up. So we talked about Elevance. Mike, be cautious about investing in BTC mining companies. I don't invest in BTC mining. I did for a very short while, but I'm in Coinbase. I own Bitcoins and I own Ethereum, and I do have one liquidity pool, but I've got like $3,000, $4,000 in that, which is tiny. What's my total? My total holdings of crypto, $138,000. And that's the smallest part of my portfolio. So little by little, I've been kind of just putting a little bit more each year. In 2024, I've probably have put in maybe about $3,000, maybe $4,000 into crypto, but as well as Coinbase stock. I did buy in low points. So if I add that, I've probably invested $5,000, $6,000 in it. But it's been a really, really good return. And I do agree with you that, hey, you have to be careful because the crypto industry, we certainly have seen a lot of companies come and go. So I try not to buy into risky situations. Try to buy into situations that are going to be here to stay, like Coinbase. So REITs tanked. I saw that. My CTRE stock has been going down for about a week. And I can't put my finger on what's the story there. We're going to have lower interest rates. Asset prices, I believe, are going to go up. These REITs own assets. They own real estate. So at a certain point, I'm going to be seeing that maybe I should buy more CTRE. And we've seen some good quality REITs recently that look pretty damn good. Carlos, thanks for joining. Does it make sense of Buffett sitting on cash while the market rips? Man, isn't that interesting? He's sitting on a lot of cash, like 300 some odd billion. Incredible. But he is the Oracle from Omaha. He is awesome. And who knows? Maybe they think the market's super expensive. It's going to crash. And once it crashes, it's going to be a disaster like in 2008, 2009. Warren Buffett made a lot of money in that era. He was coming in and rescuing companies. I think with Kraft, he had this sweetheart deal where they paid only him a dividend and he was willing to be an investor. So he's maybe waiting for situations like that to come. Now, do I see a big crash and burn environment in the next 12 months? No. Maybe in 36 months. And that's a while to wait and hold cash as the market rips. I'm glad I'm invested. I have maybe 12 to 13% cash right now. And after today, that proportion of cash went down because the stocks went up so much. So maybe I'm down to 10%. So we'll see. Falls Grave, Robinhood. Man, I love Robinhood. I just feel like Robinhood does things in a way that's different. They are capitalizing on markets. They are taking space. They're taking on organic growth of new investors in the market, doing an awesome job, up 19.6%. Nicely done, Robinhood. Very nicely done. For the year, up 208%. Very nice. 5-year down 21%. That's because when they IPO'd, they thought they were going to do everything, solve cancer, do all these things that mankind has not been able to do. All kidding aside, obviously the stock was priced way too high. It came down. I started investing probably about a year and a half ago, believing that, hey, they're a different company and they're going to take really good market share away from the other players, which they did. It's been a good success story. Market cap's still only 26 billion. 2.4 billion. Good growth. Very good growing company. 35%. And you go to other companies and people are going crazy over 20%. Like, oh man, this is the greatest company in the earth, and so forth. These guys are doing it differently. They have very organic growth. Like they're taking investors that it's their first investing experience and they're doing it on Robinhood. They're probably going to be locked in on Robinhood for a long time, if not the rest of their investing career. That's really, really good. Other brokerages are basically, kind of maintaining their status quo. And I think that's risky because as older investors die off, as older investors maybe want to diversify into alternative, assets like crypto, they might move their money and those brokerages might see outflows, where Robinhood just continues to see inflows and they continue to innovate with new products that really fit the times. That's what I really like. So they have great vision and they have great numbers. So the two I love. The only bad year they had was the 2022 year, which all brokerages really suffered because trading was down. But now they're just doing great. So they had an awesome day. It's great to be a Robinhood stockholder. And I really like that stock. So Robinhood it's been a good investment. I own $47,000 of it. And I want to take that up to 50 and we'll see. We'll see how high I'm willing to go with Robinhood. It still is a small company, so I don't want to get too far out there. But thanks for bringing that up. Do you own Robinhood, Fallsgrave? Okay, so Omar. Yep. So Mike, you bought more of your REITs. Good idea. Good idea. I was looking at CTRE thinking, man, maybe I should buy some shares. But I put in some buy orders. I didn't want to get carried away because it was such a positive day. But some stocks, what was interesting is Uber was down like 3%. I bought more Uber. And I'm like, I couldn't figure out why. Like, I don't think Trump hates Uber. I don't think they're going to suffer with the new administration, but I looked for stories and didn't find anything, and I bought some shares, and I was good with that. So good day, very good day for investors. I can get used to it. It's like Christmas came early. Good deal at Fallsgrave that you own. Robinhood. I think Robinhood's going to continue to go up higher. I would not be surprised if like JP Morgan would want to acquire Robinhood. But we'll see. With the new administration, I think more acquisitions are going to happen. There was a lot of reluctance to. I didn't see a lot of acquisitions over the last couple of years, and that was kind of a weird, situation. Usually, just naturally have acquisitions; they should be happening. So we'll see. REITs and consumer staples were down today. That makes sense. Consumer staples, especially. I mean, who wants to buy like a boring, slow growth stock when you can be on a rocket ship ride? Even Citigroup was up 9%, a big bank. JP Morgan was up 9% or 10%. So that's why it was up 8.42%. Citigroup, very good rise. And if you look at JP Morgan, it was up, I think, better than that. 11%. Holy smokes. So when you're seeing those numbers, man, yeah, leave Staples off to the side. I don't want to buy any of those. I am not selling Citi, Omar. Holding on Citi, holding that stock. It pays a good dividend. It's obviously went up a lot today. And I think it's the most attractive of the big banks. It has the best value proposition for me. And I did a video on banks probably about 3 weeks ago. If you look in the channel, you could see the review. Citigroup's in there as well as others. All right. So let me see if there's another company I wanted to make sure I covered, but I think I covered them all. All right. Is there a stock you guys want to talk about? You want me to talk about? New good spinoff coming. Not any that I'm aware of. One spinoff that I own is Solventum, which was a spinoff from 3M. That's doing well, but I don't know of any others that are coming. So Ashok, I think you've been on before. Appreciate you coming back. All right. Any other questions or stocks? All right. So, man, what is going to happen tomorrow? I don't know. We'll see. BTBT. So let's take a look at BTBT. I haven't looked at BTBT in a while. It is a stock that I find interesting. As a matter of fact, they sent me an email today. They revealed their production of, they mine Bitcoin and stuff. And their production was positive. They grew. So that looked good. This is a tiny cap. And what makes them a little different is they started offering their infrastructure for AI companies that are building large language models and need capacity, the GPU capacity, which they have, and they know how to run it. Over the past year, man, look at this chart. Whew. It's like a poorly maintained handsaw for wood. It's like, holy smokes, that does not look good. It's just really treacherous. Like, at what point do I buy? Now, the things that I like about this company is now that Bitcoin is going up in price, obviously they're going to create more revenue for themselves. They are in that AI space, which is still, for me, that's kind of, I'm not sure if it's going to be that red hot for another 2 years, maybe for another year. And once it slows down, I think companies are going to be hurting in that space. You can see in the trailing 12 months, they've had good growth. The last quarter was a little underwhelming. Maybe I'm remembering it wrong. No, I'm remembering it wrong. They're still in really high growth. They are a small company. Their quarter number is 29 million. So it's not like a big giant company. So on cash flow, how did they do on cash flow? So their cash flow is negative, but I remember looking at this company, and I do have the analysis. And here's one of the things that I would say you need to be aware of is, I think the accounting rules force BTBT to not recognize Bitcoin as cash. I recognize it as cash because they could take that, immediately turn it into cash. But I think their cash flows don't support that. So when I look at their cash flows, I have a different interpretation of what cash is, and I actually include it in my numbers. I think they're fairly priced right now. But now that Bitcoin's risen, maybe it is a good time to revisit it. I think they're going to do better on the earnings per share. I think it's worth tracking. It's just a pretty treacherous stock. It's not easy. They don't have like a beautiful upward sloping chart. It's like they go up, they crash down, they go up, crash down. I mean, these up, down, up, down, up, down, up. Is it going to stay up. It's not a smooth up and to the right chart that, for me, it makes me feel confident that, hey, these guys are just going to continue to rise. Instead, it's just been a pretty treacherous ride. But it's not a bad company to track. If you can buy this at the right times, I mean, you'd be up on the stock quite nicely if you bought here, because you're up from 296 per share up to 410. So BTBT is interesting. It's just super risky, super risky. The PE is low. Again, I like that they've diversified from just being a Bitcoin miner to also offering their infrastructure as a service for companies that are trying to build an AI application, a large language model. So that gives them another revenue stream that's probably going to be more steady than just Bitcoin mining. So go Bit Digital. I like what they're doing, and I'm going to continue to follow it. Thanks for the reminder. I think I'm going to, when do they announce? Okay, perfect. So they're going to announce on November 19th. I'll sit down and really go through and see where I'm at with this particular company. They had a great day today. They're still trading up in the after hours. So go Bit Digital. So I don't know exactly what's going to happen tomorrow, Omar. So China stocks, man, your guess is as good as mine. One part of me, so like I'm in the US, so I totally understand there's tension between the US and China, and we buy a lot of products from China. They buy a lot of products from us, but we buy more from them. And if you put tariffs, yeah, it's going to hurt companies in China. But the rest of the world does business with China. And China is making a lot of progress. They're making a lot of progress in Latin America. They're a big provider of products to Latin America, like Mexico. They're providing electric vehicles down in Mexico. They're doing a lot of stuff in other parts of Asia. So China doesn't need to grow exclusively in the US to be wildly successful. They can basically sell around the world, and they are doing that. They have relationships in Europe. They have relationships in the rest of Asia, the Middle East. They have a better relationship with Russia than we do, for good reason. And, they do business with like North Korea, and not that North Korea has a lot of money to spend, but just as an example. So having said that, what's going to happen to Chinese stocks? Well, if Chinese stocks continue to thrive on their own, like, hey, US, yeah, we may not be able to sell as much stuff to you, but we're crushing it on other areas of the world. We're crushing it in Australia. We're crushing it in the UK. We're crushing it in Africa. We're crushing it all over the world. And if that happens, if that's the story that really begins to take shape in China, I think China stocks are going to be fine. I think they're going to be fine because foreign investment's going to go into them. I mean, the U.S. does have a lot of money to invest, but there's a lot of people around the world that also want to invest. And I think China has a pretty strong proposition, a faster growing economy. They are connected around the world. They're taking a lot of their capital and putting it into other places like, they're putting money into places in Latin America, other places within Asia. So I think that'll be interesting to see. Today, China stocks were really sold off. China stocks went down. And we'll see. Omar. So if Rivian does bad tomorrow, I'm not a Rivian buyer. I think they've got a lot to prove from a fundamentals perspective. I think they lose too much money and burn too much cash. It's too risky of an investment for me, and I do not like car companies, so I'm not a buyer of Rivian. So Falls Grave. So do you have thoughts on the markets knowing we have a Republican House, Senate presidency? If I recall, market tends to not like it because, I've heard a couple of comments of, economists saying that when you have, in this case here, the Republicans controlling all three things, they tend to get carried away and they'll run up the national debt. For example, taxes, right? They could really become favorable with their constituents by saying, hey, I lowered your taxes a whole lot. And their constituents are super happy. Meanwhile, we have a lot more debt as a country. And then we start having our interest expense on debt is a greater part of our GDP, which it's already kind of a good part of the GDP. But if it goes even higher, it becomes even a bigger problem, riskier for the country. So that's what they're concerned about. I would say that it leads me to want to, and as I get older, I'm 56, and I don't want to wake up 10 years from now and see that stocks are worth half as much, because that would mean that a lot of my liquid assets are worth half as much. So I continue to buy into bonds, cryptocurrencies. I own real estate, and that, those assets will continue to go up, because if inflation goes up, that means houses are going to be more expensive. Well, if you own houses, that's not bad news. That means that, that property I own, it's, worth a lot more. So that's what I think I've heard, which makes sense. So we can have, it's kind of like the saying, right? Short-term gain with long-term pain. We could see, the Republicans really become super popular. I mean, I'd like to see my taxes go down. I'd like to see certain things, change for the better. But I also know that, hey, it costs money to have an army, to have a really strong armed forces. It costs money to have a government. It costs money to do these, the research the government has to do. And we have to raise taxes to pay for that. So we'll see what happens. I think, the U.S. is a very strong country. We have a democracy, and I think we're going to be fine. We may have some imbalances, but what's great about, markets is, some moments in my life have been, the economy's been really put through the test. The Great Recession, right? We had the government basically say we have to bail out the insurance companies that were on the hook for the subprime mortgage meltdown. That was a pretty scary moment. It was like, holy smokes, what happens now? And the U.S. bounced back. We figured that out. We made things right, and we proceeded forward. People are afraid that we're going to have another event like that. And we may have an event like that. I know that before that, so we had the dot-com bubble, and some stocks lost all value, and some stocks were really, really sold off. That was another event that I remember that was pretty crazy, and really caught my attention. 9/11 is a big sell-off, humongous sell-off, because people weren't quite sure what's going to happen. Are we going to continue to see this type of terrorism? And then more recently, COVID. At the beginning of 2022, over the course of 1 month, the market sold off big time. And guess what? Within 6 months, we were higher than we were previously. So what's great about free markets is we're going to have problems. But the good news is we're going to fix those problems, then move forward. Is my spirit, I guess. And it's better than, some other governments try to have centralized power completely. They're like, oh no, we'll figure it out as a central government. We have all these economic problems that we got the country into, and we're going to try to solve them. That doesn't work. What works is you got problems. The market will price assets down that aren't worth as much, and it'll be an opportunity for investors to pick up things that are discounted. When investors get a hold of it, they maybe some good entrepreneurs get a hold of a particular, market, and then they innovate. and we get through it. So I don't see it as a big, like, oh my God, it's going to keep me up at night. I would just say that, yeah, I heard that. And could they get us in a little trouble? Yeah. Can they get us in some substantial problems? Yes. But I'm confident that the U.S. is going to overcome it over time. Michael Anthony. All right, let's take a look. Yeah, it's pretty interesting that Trump wants to put JFK in charge of healthcare. You know, I got nothing against JFK, but does he have a background in healthcare? That's one thing I didn't. It was just kind of like he's not like a doctor, I don't think, but we'll see. We'll see. Hopefully, he doesn't create too much confusion there. I did not buy BTBT. I'm thinking of analyzing it when they announce, and we'll see where I go from there. I still have faith in Nike. I think Nike will be very valuable for the next 10 years. For the next couple of years, it may lose value, it may gain value, but over the next 10 years, I believe it'll be far more valuable. So DG and DLTR and others sold off hard. So the one that catches my attention is DLTR. So these, God, man, these are the staples. And these, I mean, it's so tough to make money in these businesses, but these are staples, and staples will not do well when you have high growth periods. And when you saw small caps just take off like rocket ships, the staples get left behind. That's what happened. Ashok. So you're asking about gold, and man, gold makes no sense to me. I don't have a qualified comment there. Bitcoin does, but gold doesn't. What's weird is Bitcoin flourished today, but gold dropped. And I always expected that Bitcoin and gold would move in the same direction. But I don't have a qualified opinion on gold, by the way. Yeah, I agree that Pfizer beat big. I really like their growth. 30% plus growth in the quarter on top line revenue. That is phenomenal. If they continue that, it cannot be ignored by the market. So I continue to buy shares. I bought more shares today, as a matter of fact. So I'm buying into Pfizer. So, all right, guys. Well, it was an awesome day on Wall Street. Hopefully you guys all made lots of money and we get to keep it and we get to grow it in 2025, which brings me to an idea. You want to grow your money in 2025, become a better investor, become more involved in this community, come and join our calls on the weekends. We have a call on Saturdays. We call it a workshop. We go over topics. Then on Sunday, it's an investor call. And if you sign up for the advanced investor option, I commit to doing one-on-one call with you. We'll talk about whatever topic you think is important. But take a look. You can get a link to these 3 options on the description of the live stream. And it'd be great if you could support the channel. And I appreciate you considering it. So that's it, guys. Great day. Fun live stream. Thanks for showing up. Thanks for the many comments that were provided. I appreciate that very much. And again, I hope you guys all made lots of money. I hope it continues. I could do this for a couple months. And it's been a great year. And if it keeps going at this rate, this year is going to be the best year of my investing career. But we'll see. We'll see. I think 2025 is going to be a very positive year. I think we're going to make good gains next year. So long as no other factors come into the picture, like a war or another big, COVID-like causal factor. As long as something like that doesn't show up, I think 2025 for stocks is going to be a good year. And it'll be fun to try to find the right companies, stick with the right winning companies to make a lot of money in 2025. So everybody, thanks for tuning in. I appreciate it. Everybody have a good evening, and I will talk with you soon.